Hello and welcome back to Mastering Biology, the classes that make biology easy to understand and learn. All right, today we will start with the second life process, and the name of the life process is respiration. The chapter life processes, and the second life process that we will be discussing is respiration. Now, what is respiration? Respiration is a process, all right, just like photosynthesis, but definitely it is not photosynthesis. So respiration is a process where the food we eat is oxidized. Why we are eating food? To get energy. So it is oxidized to release energy. So simple, respiration is oxidation of food to get energy. Now this energy is in the form of ATP. All right. Now what is ATP? ATP, the full form is adenosine triphosphate. And this ATP is said to be the energy currency of the cell. This is the energy currency of the cell. All right. Now, what type of process is respiration? Respiration is a catabolic process. I have discussed about the word catabolism and anabolism in a separate video. I would request you to please go through that video also to clear all your fundamental doubts about catabolic process. All right. Now, just for one liner, if I would say, catabolic process is a process where breakdown of things are taking place, breakdown of substances is taking place. So that is a catabolic reaction. If I have to put respiration in an equation, so that would be glucose, which is the most commonly used respiratory substrate, in the presence of oxygen, gives us carbon dioxide, water, and ATP molecules, which are 38 in number. This is a catabolic reaction because breakdown of things are taking place. This is a catabolic reaction where breakdown of things are taking place. All right. So when breakdown of things take place, it is a catabolic process. And yes, energy is being released. Energy is released. When this energy is released, such a reaction is said to be exergonic reaction. A reaction in which energy is released, that reaction is exergonic reaction. So respiration is a compilation of catabolism and an exergonic reaction, where breakdown of respiratory substrate takes place to release energy. Now, what is respiratory substrate? Let's have a look at this word, respiratory substrate. The word respiratory substrate means those substances which are used for the process of respiration. All right. Those compounds that can be used for the process of respiration to gain energy. All right. And so the most commonly used respiratory substrate is glucose, because this gives us instant energy. You've already discussed this in the chapter nutrition. So glucose is the most commonly used respiratory substrate. So compounds which give us energy during the process of respiration are respiratory substrate, and glucose is said to be the most common respiratory substrate. Now, this doesn't at all mean that fats and proteins cannot be used as a respiratory substrate. Fats and proteins can be used as a respiratory substrate, but yes, the amount of energy you get will be less and it will take time. That is why I said that is the most common respiratory substrate. Fine. Next, what are the types of respiration? Do you know? There are two types of respiration. Okay, before moving to types, I would talk about one small thing, and this small thing involves how does this differ from how does respiration differ from photosynthesis? As I've already told you, respiration is an exergonic process. That means it is releasing energy. Photosynthesis. What is photosynthesis? This is an endergonic process. Why an endergonic process? Why this is an endergonic process? Because if you remember the equation of photosynthesis, sunlight is entering in the reaction. That is, plants are trapping solar energy and then converting it into chemical energy. So because of that, we say we are providing energy. And so it is an endergonic process. Now, respiration involves breakdown of the substrate, and so it is called as a catabolic reaction. This is a catabolic reaction, whereas photosynthesis is an anabolic reaction. All right, this is the catabolic reaction. This is an anabolic reaction. That means breakdown is taking place during respiration, and during photosynthesis, the name is suggesting itself, synthesis of food takes place in the form of glucose. All right. So these are two basic things that you should know, that these are basic differences. Now, one important thing that you should always keep in mind is that photosynthesis and respiration are exactly opposite reactions. Let me show you how. Photosynthesis involves carbon dioxide plus water gives us a molecule of glucose and oxygen is released. Now, I'm not balancing it out here. Okay. This is one-sided. And this process is photosynthesis. Carbon dioxide, water being used as raw material, giving us glucose. All right. But when this glucose is broken down or it is metabolized It releases carbon dioxide, water, and energy. And this is what is happening in respiration. So that is why I said that photosynthesis and respiration are two exact opposite reactions which are taking place. All right. So equation is same. The product becomes the reactant and the reactant becomes the product in the two. Am I clear? I hope you have understood how you can write the difference and the equation also. All right. Now let us move to the types of respiration. What are the types of respiration? There are two types of respiration which takes place in a living system, and this involves aerobic respiration and the second one anaerobic respiration. So when I say aerobic respiration, a respiration which takes place in the presence of air, which means, to be precise, oxygen. Anaerobic respiration is that process which does not require oxygen or air. All right. Aerobic respiration involves complete breakdown of glucose. And anaerobic respiration involves incomplete breakdown of glucose. Complete breakdown means that glucose releases carbon dioxide, water as products. Whereas incomplete breakdown means it can either produce ethanol plus carbon dioxide, as is in the case of yeast cell, all right, or it could also produce lactic acid, as is in the case of muscle cells of animals. That means, yes, children, our body also performs anaerobic respiration. When it is required, we'll come to that part very soon. For now, you need to know that the products of aerobic respiration are carbon dioxide and water, and anaerobic respiration, the products are, if it is a yeast cell, then it is an ethanol or ethyl alcohol and carbon dioxide, and in muscle cell, it is lactic acid. Now, what energy is generated? Yes, here we get 38 ATP as the energy. But in case of anaerobic respiration, the amount of energy is very little. It is just 2 molecules of ATP which are released during this process of anaerobic respiration. I hope I'm clear till here. Let's move to the next point, which is the site or the location where it takes place in the cell. Aerobic respiration takes place, the first step occurs in the cytoplasm of the cell, and the second step occurs in the mitochondria. So these are the two places where the aerobic respiration will take place. But when it is anaerobic respiration, it occurs only in the cytoplasm of the cell. Mitochondria is not involved. Please keep in mind, mitochondria is only playing a role during aerobic respiration. Anaerobic respiration happens only in the cytoplasm of the cell. So these are two types of respiration, aerobic and anaerobic, which takes place in case of organisms. All right. Now, one thing again you would note here that anaerobic respiration is also known as fermentation. We will take up again one by one, but here are the basic differences on the screen that you can note down, and if you can write even in your exams in the same way, that these are the basic differences. All right. Now, anaerobic respiration is also known as fermentation. Now, let us quickly move to the next part, which is the definition of aerobic respiration. We have to define it, children. If it comes for a definition, you have to write the complete information. You cannot miss out anything. All right. And for that complete information, let us put it to words. The process in which complete oxidation of food. In the bracket, you can write glucose occurs to release carbon dioxide, water, and 38 ATP of energy. And this will be followed by again the same equation, which is C6H12O6, giving you carbon dioxide, water, and 38 molecules of ATP. So this is how you will write if it comes in the form of a definition. You will define it and write the equation so that the examiner knows that you know both the things simultaneously. And along with this, here as a pointer, you will write occurs in cytoplasm and mitochondria of the cell. I hope I am clear with this definition and the way you have to write the answer for what is aerobic respiration. All right. Next is anaerobic respiration. So when I say anaerobic respiration, the second is anaerobic respiration. Now here two things you have to keep in mind. The first one that you have to remember is the process in which incomplete breakdown of food results in synthesis of ethanol and carbon dioxide or lactic acid along with 2 ATP. This is the definition of anaerobic respiration. All right. And then it will be supported by the two equations which involves in yeast cell. You have to write what happens. C6H12O6 plus oxygen splits up into ethanol, which is C2H5OH, that is ethanol, along with carbon dioxide, along with 2 ATP. And if the same reaction is happening in muscle cells, then it is called as follows, which is C6H12O6 plus oxygen, the lactic acid, no carbon dioxide, and 2 ATP molecules. All right. So these are the two places where anaerobic respiration takes place. Now children, this is okay. You've got the anaerobic respiration. What about fermentation? See, when there is synthesis of ethanol, this is known as alcoholic fermentation. This is alcoholic fermentation. All right. And this one in the muscle cell is called lactic acid fermentation. This is called as lactic acid fermentation. So what is fermentation? Yes, how you will define this answer now. That is the reason I left the space here. How will you define what is fermentation? Fermentation is a type of anaerobic respiration which occurs in the microorganisms like yeast and results in formation of ethanol and carbon dioxide along with little energy. This is what you will write for fermentation. And one more thing you will add here. What is the utility or what is the usefulness of fermentation? This type of anaerobic respiration has played a very, very important role in the brewery industry. It has played an important role in the bakery because it is where we get spongy and fluffy cakes, breads, all right? And brewery industry is all about ethanol and alcohol. So the brewery industry is also an important utilizer of this equation, all right? So you have to keep in mind these two things, that if the definition turns up for anaerobic respiration, you will write this part, and if it is fermentation, you will write this part along with the commercial usage. The commercial use of fermentation is in the brewery industry, the bread making industry, all right, the bakery. And even it is used in making dosas and idlis where there has to be fermentation taking place, all right. So this is basic about the types of respiration, aerobic and anaerobic both. Now children, I will discuss one important question here with you, and that question is, why, first of all, can you think of that the muscle cells of animals are doing anaerobic respiration, although we are inhaling so much oxygen throughout the day? The reason is that it happens only at particular time. For the entire day you perform aerobic respiration, but suddenly if you are doing a strenuous activity, maybe a workout, cycling or swimming, so whenever there is some strenuous activity, the muscle cells switch from aerobic respiration to anaerobic respiration. And why are they switching? Because the muscle cells need energy. And you know, complete oxidation will take time. So they switch over to partial oxidation, which is anaerobic respiration, and they keep on releasing 2 ATP molecules during this anaerobic respiration. Alright, so that is the reason that our muscle cells during vigorous activity switch from aerobic to anaerobic, because the demand of energy is much higher, but the oxygen is not available because your breathing rate increases when you are doing this strenuous or vigorous exercise or workout. Alright, so since you're not providing sufficient oxygen, complete breakdown cannot take place and the muscles need energy. For that purpose, the muscle cells switch from aerobic to anaerobic respiration. Am I clear? Now, the question that is often asked, why do athletes get muscle cramps? Why do athletes get muscle cramps? And the reason for getting muscle cramp is the accumulation of, it is due to the lactic acid accumulation. All right, the demand of oxygen is more than the supply. To provide energy to the muscle cells. To provide energy to the muscle cells. All right. Now, the lactic acid accumulation is taking place. That means anaerobic respiration is happening. Why is it happening? Because demand of oxygen is more than the supply to provide energy. But due to lack of oxygen, muscle cells switch from aerobic to anaerobic respiration. They switch from aerobic to anaerobic respiration, resulting in, it results in incomplete breakdown of glucose and releases lactic acid along with 2 ATP molecules. And these molecules of lactic acid get accumulated in the muscle cells. And once they accumulate in the muscle cells, It causes cramps. That is why athletes get muscle cramps. This is the complete answer that you should know. Why do athletes get muscle cramps? Or it can be asked, why do we get cramps after vigorous activity? Because of accumulation of this lactic acid. And then you have to explain the whole process. But what is happening? You have to tell that anaerobic respiration is taking place. Our body was doing aerobic, but because of the increased activity, they have to switch to anaerobic respiration. All right. Now, let us move to the last part of this topic, and that is the sum total of what you have studied so far. But yes, you will have some additions also in the flowchart. And this flowchart is given in your NCERT, and this is very, very important. All right. So this is actually said to be as the summary of respiration. This is said to be the summary of respiration. Now, children, the process of respiration starts from where? The process of respiration begins from glucose, which is a 6-carbon compound. This 6-carbon compound glucose changes into pyruvate or the pyruvic acid, which is 3 carbons. So 2 molecules of 3-carbon compound are generated. Where is this reaction taking place? This conversion happens in the cytoplasm of the cell. And this step is known as glycolysis. All right, this step is known as glycolysis, and remember, this is common to both aerobic and anaerobic respiration. That means the change happens after pyruvate or the pyruvic acid formation. What happened? What is the change? Yes, the change is pyruvate can have 3 destinies. What is the fate of pyruvate? Pyruvate can have 3 destinies. What is the first one? In the presence of oxygen, if oxygen is present, pyruvate enters the organelle mitochondria and undergoes Krebs cycle. That's the name of the step. All right. Once it enters mitochondria, it undergoes Krebs cycle. Products you already know: carbon dioxide, water, and 38 molecules of ATP. Right. If oxygen is absent, then yes. If oxygen is absent, absent means 0. Then it will take place in the yeast cell. All right. Absent means even if it is present in the air, yeast is not using it. All right. So here the product is ethanol plus carbon dioxide plus 2 ATP. Now 3 carbon is changing into 2 carbon compound. Fine. The third. This is very special because we have placed both yeast and muscle cell under the heading anaerobic respiration. But what the difference is that here the oxygen is completely absent. But here it is not absent. It is in the lack of oxygen. Please make a note of this part. It is the lack of oxygen which causes anaerobic respiration in muscle cells. And what is the product? Yes, you know it. It is the lactic acid. And this lactic acid is still a 3-carbon compound along with 2 molecules of ATP. So this is the summary of what? Respiration. All right, where we have concluded the aerobic and the anaerobic respiration and the alcoholic fermentation and the lactic acid fermentation. All right, please keep in mind, aerobic respiration will occur in 2 organelles, which is cytoplasm and mitochondria, whereas anaerobic respiration occurs only in the cytoplasm. It will never happen in mitochondria. All right, and here we have oxygen present, here we have absent, and here it is partially present. That is what is happening in the muscle cell. So here, children, in this slide, if you remember, we have written this point due to lack of oxygen. This is a very important point. So anaerobic respiration can take place either in the absence of oxygen or lack of oxygen. All right, please learn this flow chart. This one, this is very, very important. So please learn it for your board exams. Half of the explanation will be done by this and rest you can write in your own words. All right. So in the next lecture, I will talk about respiration in plants. All right. Thank you.